A typical anxiety dream for me is I'm driving on the highway and the brakes in my car aren't working. But I've had all sorts of interesting, fascinating anxiety dreams over the course of my life. And literature is filled with amazing, fascinating anxiety dreams. Les Miserables has an absolutely harrowing anxiety dream as Jean Valjean is debating whether or not to reveal his identity to exonerate the Champmathieu character who's being convicted under the name of Jean Valjean. And he dreams he's walking in this like surreal, liminal landscape, and he's surrounded by these figures who are like sort of ashen and corpse-like and like distorted and grotesque, and they sort of catch up with him and they're just like surrounding him, and they say, Jean Valjean, aren't you supposed to be dead? And just an incredible vision, and maybe we'll do a video on that one day. But one of my absolute favorite anxiety dreams, an absolute classic, memorable anxiety dream, is from Crime and Punishment, using, of course, the Michael R. Katz translation with the blurb from Steve Donahue on the cover. So early on in the book, Raskolnikov is still debating whether or not he's going to carry out this heinous murder and kill the pawnbroker woman and steal her money. And in the midst of his feverish, sleepless ruminations, he has this dream. He dreams that he's a young kid of about 7 years old with his father in the town that he grew up in, and they're passing by one of these taverns that he remembers as a child, and the peasants are outside and they're whipping a horse. And this one peasant, Milkolka, he has this very small horse, and the horse is hitched to a much larger carriage than the horse can handle, and Mikolka and the other peasants are laughing. They're in drunken reverie and they're beating this horse. Get in, everyone, get in, cries Mikolka. She'll take everyone. I'll flog her. And he whips her and whips her again. In his frenzy, he no longer knows what he's doing. Papa, Papa, the boy cries to his father. Papa, what are they doing? Papa, they're beating the poor horse. Let's go, says the father. They're drunk, misbehaving, those fools. Let's go, don't look. He tries to lead his son away. That's the dream. It goes on for a while in all the gruesome detail. And Raskolnikov eventually wakes up in a cold sweat. And this dream, I think, tells us so much about Raskolnikov. First of all, we can see in the dream a grief at having lost his father, a missing, that absence of his father that he sort of yearns for and who appears to him in the dream. Second, we certainly see what Dostoevsky understood and what plays out in the story of Crime and Punishment, this ecstasy of violence, this revelry, violence as a peak experience. You know, in life we can have all sorts of peak experiences. There can be a peak experience from great art. There can be a peak experience from religious ecstasy. There can be peak experiences from all sorts of incredible pleasures. And there can be a peak experience in violence, in losing oneself, in cruelty. And of course, that's central to the plot of Crime and Punishment. But also there's a sense that in the anxiety dream appears an aspect, an element of Raskolnikov's psyche that he is not consciously aware of. It's a part of him which feels deeply small, deeply vulnerable, deeply afraid. And the horrific act that he carries out in the story, his philosophy, his desire to be like a Napoleon who can overstep the laws of man, who can make his own laws, someone who can commit a crime for some higher purpose, some greater good. That whole act, that whole persona is actually the other side of that sense of smallness, that those two things go hand in hand. That one is, of course, a reaction of the other. And so the invitation here is to notice our anxiety dreams, and feel free to let me know in the comments what your favorite anxiety dream is. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow.